Shalom, family. Today is Thanksgiving, but as for us, for any of the righteous children of Israel, we say we don't give any two flying flips about Thanksgiving, okay? The soulful topic on tonight is the death penalty still valid? Okay, is the death penalty still valid? We understand that the law of Moses was given unto us in the Old Testament. And Yahawashi came and fulfilled the law of animal sacrifice with his life being given for the children of Israel to atone for our sins. And grace was provided through the shedding of his blood. And so sometimes we might ask ourselves, do we still have the permittance through the law to perform the death penalty? And I just want to bring some scriptures out and try to get a little clarity on this matter. Okay, so first, go to the book of Judges, chapter 20. We read verses 1 through 7, 11 through 13, verse 18, and verse 35. I'll have you read that again.
Judges 20 and what?
Verses 1 through 7, 11 through 13, verse 18, and verse 35. So when we're talking about the death penalty, putting a man to death for wrongdoing, you have two classes of that crime that it would fall into. One being put to death because they violated the law against the Most High, and then one being put to death because they violated a civic law against a person or party or family or clan member of the nation of Israel. Okay? And when you look at it deep enough, because the royal law is to have kindness towards your brother, if you're doing evil against your brother, then you really do sin against the Most High. Okay? So it's really one and the same, but if you kind of look at it, there's two classes of it. You could do something like, in the time, book of Numbers, I believe it is, where man went out to gather sticks. He was found, placed in the ward, and the Most High says, stone him to death. He didn't violate any man, but he violated the law of the Most High. He disobeyed. He was put to death for that. Okay? And then you have others where they have violated someone else, killed a man, and then you would have the law of the city of refuge. And if the avenger of the family found that murderer outside of the city, he could put him to death and no one could say nothing to him. Okay? So, again, I'm going to go to Judges chapter 20, verses 1 through 7 first. And I'll have you go ahead and read that.
Okay, then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto Yahweh in Mizpah.
Uh-huh.
And the chief of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of Yahweh, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. Then said the children of Israel, tell us, how was this wickedness?
Salakia. So, as I said, there are two classes of crime to where the death penalty would be applied, whether it be sin against the Most High directly or violation of your brother, to where one of his family members were put to death and you avenge that, or something damnable was committed against the brother, against the neighbor, and the death penalty was sufficient as a penalty or as a consequence for that person's action. Here in Judges chapter 20, we're going to see where essentially it is violation of the law of the Most High and righteousness, but it was a violation of the civic law from brother to brother. Okay, go on.
Verse 4, and the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain.
Salakia, meaning the individual and his wife who were violated by the Sodomites of the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, go on.
Answered and said, I came into Gibeah that belongeth to Benjamin, I and my concubine to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose against me, and beset the house round about upon me by night, and thought to have slain me. And my concubine have they forced, that she is dead.
They raped her.
And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel.
So not only did they offend the Levite and the concubine by permitting this high crime, this wicked crime, but they also have offended the law of the Most High God, and that they perform lewdness and folly in Israel. Okay, playing the role of the sodomite. Okay, go on.
Verse 7. Behold, ye are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel.
Okay, so before they just reacted, they came together, okay, and they wanted counsel as to what to do. Okay, so the Levite he cut this concubine, the dead concubine, up into pieces and sent them out to the tribes, and he's asking them, I need justice. I desire justice. Okay? And the children of Israel as a whole come up. They recognize something. This is wrong. Something has to be done. Something has to be done. It wasn't just one man that violated. It was the men of Gibeah, of the tribe of Benjamin. And the children of Israel as a whole are looking on this matter and say, something's got to be done. Okay?
Verse 11.
What did I say? Yes.
Through 13.
11 through 13, yeah.
So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man.
So they were on one accord. They came together. So, when the children of Israel in righteousness come together to worship, they're knit together as one man, as one people. Okay? And that's easy, to come and to give your sacrifice and lift your hands and praise and sing and shout and fellowship. That's wonderful. That's easy. But they knew that something severe had to be done. Okay? Where these men were concerned in the evil that they committed against this Levite, a priest, and his concubine. Something had to be done. So none of them had to, I don't know, man, maybe we should let it go. No, they all had they had resolved in their minds, something's got to be done. They were all on one accord. What do you think we should do? Let's go and seek the Most High. Just like in Numbers, when the man was grabbed, they asked Moses, what should we do? Well, let's place him in the ward, seek the Most High, and see what the Most High would have to be done. They put that brother in the ward. Moses and the people sought the Most High. The Most High spoke and said, stone that nigga to death. And they all brought him out of the war and stoned him to death. So in the same manner, they all came together, the children of Israel. They were resolute. They were of one mind and said, something's got to be done. We're not going to sleep on it. We're not going to let it go. We're not going to just, brother, don't worry about it. Here, have my concubine. No, something's got to be done. Okay, keep reading.
Verse 12. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you?
Meaning, what in the world are you doing? What in the world are you doing? Or as Bishop Nathaniel say, hell is this? You know what I'm saying? So what are y'all doing? What wickedness are y'all doing in the tribe of Benjamin? What are y'all doing? Now we raping concubines and doing all type of perverse stuff? Now we sodomites out here? Now we breaking the law of Moses? That's what we doing now? Okay, keep reading.
Verse 13. Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial,
of the devil,
which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death.
That we may implement the death penalty for their lewdness and their folly and their wickedness. We're not trying to kill the whole tribe. We don't want to exterminate one of the tribes out of Jacob. Just give us the men that committed this folly. Just give us them so we can put them to death. Go on.
And put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel.
So this easily could have been resolved if the children of Benjamin as a whole said, hey, if what you're saying is correct, we don't want to stand in the way of justice and judgment. Hey, go gather the men of Gibeah, bring them forward so our brethren can exact judgment on these men and put them to death for their wickedness. Okay? Yeah, verse 18 and then 35.
And the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of Yahweh and asked counsel of Yahweh and said, which of us shall go up first to the battle against the children of Benjamin? And Yahweh said, Judah shall go up first.
Salakia. So it would have been easy if the Benjaminites would have given them over, the men of Gibeah, given them over to the children of Israel, but they refused. So that led to a civil war amongst the tribes of Israel. The children of Israel as a whole, and then versus the children of Benjamin. Okay, so it led to a civil war. But you're seeing there in verse 18 that the death penalty, okay, that they were looking to exact according to the law was the will of the Most High. Now they refused. The Most High didn't say, okay, do not fight against your brother. He didn't say, don't do this to your brother. Let it go. Have kindness. The Most High said, they said, who should we send up first to fight against our own brother who performed wickedness? The Most High said, send Judah up there first. Let him go into battle first. Okay? So it was the Most High's will that they be destroyed. Not only because remember, it's not just the men of Gibeah, but the children of Benjamin. When you try to cover up this sin and you placate and you allow that, you become guilty before the eyes of the Most High. So you got to pay for that too. So the Most High is like, you know what, whoop up on them too. They're going to have to die for that because you're trying to hide it. You're trying to excuse their wicked behavior. And if a man is trying to excuse wicked behavior, that means he's just as wicked. Go on.
Verse 35. And Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel.
Salakia, you see what it says? It doesn't say that the children of Israel smote Benjamin. It said Yahweh smote Benjamin. So it was his will that this would come to pass and that they would ultimately, because in the beginning, the Benjaminites were kind of whooping up on the children of Israel, but it was all playing into the Most High's hand. But ultimately, he brought great slaughter against the Benjamites because they would not give over the men of Gibeah. How are you trying to protect some sodomites just because they're your brother? Okay, so you're seeing here that the death penalty was valid. It had to be implemented because they not only violated the Levite and his concubine, but the law of Moses altogether. And took it a step further and said, nah, we're not going to give them over. What? Then that means war. Them fighting words right there. The children of Israel were resolute. They were of one mind. They were knit together as one man and said, yo, we got to do something about this. And if that means we got to go to war against our own brother, then so be it. That righteousness may be exalted, and we put this folly from out of Israel. Go on.
And Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,000 and 100 men. All these drew the sword.
Okay, from there, I'm going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. So that's a sin that would be punishable by the death penalty. That falls kind of in the category of a man violating another man. Now we're going to look at some sins to where a man violates the law of God, and he has to receive the death penalty for that. So Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. Go on and read.
If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods.
Salakia. So, now we know that false prophets are determined if they give a vision or give a dream or a word and it comes not to pass. That's the major way to determine whether a man or woman is false or not. Okay? But here in Deuteronomy 13, you won't have the ease of knowing if this man is a false prophet simply by his word not coming to pass. You have to look a little deeper than that and see his conduct. A truly righteous prophet or servant of the Most High will keep his commandments. Okay? So this is a warning for us. Because men may come and perform wonders, lying wonders, even as it's talked about in the book of Revelations. All right, if someone come and, prophesy or dream a dream or say something and it actually comes to pass, don't just jump on that bandwagon. Be very careful. Listen to them. You shall know them by the fruit they bear, the scripture says. So don't just jump on the bandwagon just because his word came to pass. Peradventure, because his vision, tickled your ear. Man, that sounds deep, man. This brother might be on to something. Pay close attention and be careful not to be a follower. Read on.
And the sign or the wonder come to pass whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For Yahweh your king proveth you.
Salakia. So this man may be speaking stuff that sound real deep, sound real spiritual, sound super duper spiritual, right? He prophesying and dreaming dreams and like, yo, bruh, that sound like, yo, don't that sound deep, man? I ain't never heard nobody say nothing like that, man. The prophet is saying, listen, the Most High is proving, he's putting you to the test. He's going to see if you just going to jump and go after somebody just because they saying something that sound good. If this brother is, give you a dream, give you a revelation, give you, this deep understanding, quote unquote, but he's telling you to go after other gods, that should be your red flag right there. Your red flag.
Not that it came to pass.
Yeah. Not the fact that it didn't come to pass, because it did come to pass, but his words are not lining up. Okay, he performing miracles, and that's kind of dope, but his words are, according to the law, that man is a false prophet. He trying to get me to go off. And if I be pulled by emotion and not truly be in the spirit, I might fall victim to this man's form of idolatry. He trying to get me to go off and commit idolatry. Okay, so now the Moses is saying to the children of Israel, if this person comes along, right, and this situation arises, this is how you deal with it. Although he's performing miracles and he's declaring great works and wonders and whatnot, but he's saying for you, yo, I know we've been worshiping the Most High Yahweh, but look, there's another God that's even greater than him, and we should seek him with our whole heart. This is what we should do with him. Go
on. For Yahweh your king proveth you, to know whether you love Yahweh your king with all your heart and with all your soul.
Okay.
Ye shall walk after Yahweh your king and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him and cleave unto him.
So this is how important keeping the commandments are to the Most High. Because again, we're talking about, is the death penalty still valid? And this right here that we're talking about is about a man, a false prophet, and his conduct and his attitude and his lifestyle being in violation to the law of the Most High. And if you find this man and he's saying what he's saying and doing what he's doing, he needs to be put to death. Okay? Because I want you to cleave to me and keep my commandments. Hearken unto me. Now I'm putting you to the test. I'm going to bring a false prophet, bring a wolf in the midst of the sheep, and I want to see if you will obey my word enough to listen to me and not listen to them. Okay? This is what I want. Go on.
Verse 5. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from Yahweh your king, which brought you out of the land of Egypt.
Salakia, that's the point. This is the reason why this man must be put to death, because he had a motive of turning your heart away from me unto other gods. That is a damnable crime. He needs to be put to death for that. I want you to serve me. I don't want anybody coming in, influencing you to turn from me and follow some other God, follow some other way, follow some other belief or conviction. I want you to hearken after me. So this is what I want you to do with this brother who come, speaking wonderful things and performing miracles, but telling you to go off and worship this other God and go into a cave and worship this other God, or go behind the mountain or go behind a tree and worship this other God. This is what you do with him. Go on.
Which brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which Yahweh thy king commandeth thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee.
Okay, so you are going to destroy him. Okay. Last sentence there. So thou shalt put the evil away from the midst of thee. Okay, so when this man is put to death, okay, it will clear away the foolishness, the foolishness, the folly that was committed by him trying to influence the children of Israel to go off. What it's supposed to do, the death penalty that is supposed to provoke fear in your hearts to serve the Most High. That's what the death penalty was implemented for. Okay? To put away evil and wickedness out of the land, and to put fear in your heart that you see it, become afraid, and say, I'm not doing that.
Can I
Yes.
say something? Just to add to that, in Christianity, we had quote unquote prophets that would speak unto us things, but we were still worshiping another God and not our true king. I'm calling them by a name that's not their name. So that's worshiping other gods. And I think that's something important for us to realize now in this truth, that we have to stop following after these people that call themselves prophets that are in Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Right. But that's the purpose. This man would be put to death so that the evil could be put out of the land, so there's no more evil influence, and that it would place fear in the people so that they would continue to keep the commandments. This is why it was implemented. From there, we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 14. I'll have you read that. I'll probably have you read all the scriptures tonight. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 14. So usually when a man was put to death by the congregation of Israel, it was by stoning. But there was sometimes was another method to the death penalty. Just like here in America, if one gets the death penalty, not only do they get the electric chair, which that might be done away with, right?
They can get some kind of drug.
Injection, back in the day it was hanging. Okay, even burned at the stake. There were, different methods. Okay, so same thing with our great ancestors. Many were stoned to death, but then here in verses 14, you'll hear of another method for the death penalty. Go on.
And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you.
Again, you're seeing the rationale. There's a method to why the Most High, has placed these things in the law. Okay? What he has done is wickedness. This man laid down not only with the woman, but with her mother as well. They were consenting to this wicked act. So you know what? You take not only the man, but the mother and the daughter, and you burn all three of them to do what? The last part? That there be no wickedness among you. Because if they get off and we just, that's okay. That ain't no big deal. Just don't do it anymore. Run the risk of having, first of all, they continue to do what they're doing. And then secondly, that evil influence would dwell among the children of Israel. And they would say, well, man, that seemed kind of cool. Maybe I should try to mess with her and mess with her mother and see what I can get. But that was done to put that wickedness out of the camp, put it out of the nation. That's wickedness. Okay? All right. I'm going to go back to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verses 11 through 13. Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verses 11 through 13.
When all Israel is come to appear before Yahweh thy king in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn, and fear Yahweh your king, and observe to do all the words of this law.
This is what the Most High desires from his people. Not just that the righteous elders would learn, but the older men, the younger men, the older women, the younger women, and the children, the young people, would all learn equally, learn the righteousness of the law, and observe to keep his commandments, that the fear of Yahweh be in their heart through the teaching of the word. Let's read that again in verse, was it 12? Just read it for me, verse 12 again.
Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn, and fear Yahweh your king.
Fear Yahweh. Go on.
And observe to do all the words of this law.
Read 13.
And that their children, which have not known anything.
Meaning, they did not come out of Egypt. They did not wander in the wilderness. They weren't there when Solomon was there, Joshua was there, when King David was there. Many generations have passed. Okay, these children don't know anything. They come out the womb, they don't know the commandments. They don't know nothing. So it's important for you, men, women, to instruct these children, the children of their children. Instruct them that they may fear Yahweh their God. Okay, keep going.
And learn to fear. Oh, let me start all over with 13. Okay. And that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your king, as long as ye live in the land whither you go over Jordan to possess it. Okay,
so the Most High is laying it out. This is what I want for you to be taught these things, that you may have fear towards me. Okay, and the death penalty was implemented for that reason, that the fear of Yahweh may be in us. Okay, now our mothers and fathers, for those, who were physically disciplined growing up, whenever they gave us a rule, it wasn't just don't do it because I said don't do it. When we were given a rule and given restrictions, it came with a consequence. It came with a consequence. If you violate the laws of my house, I'm going to tear your behind up. That was a consequence if you broke the law of your mother and of your father. In the same way, the death penalty was the ultimate punishment. The ultimate punishment. So that the fear of the Father may rest in our hearts. If we know there's a great consequence to committing evil and wickedness and transgressing the law, then we would be more circumspect to obey and keep his charge. But if not, then it's like, then I might just steal something. I might just violate, do something behind closed doors, do something in the dark. The Heavenly Father sees us not. He ain't gonna do nothing. Ain't no problem. But this was implemented to give us parameters of what we should do and not do. Okay? All right, from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 38 and 39. So, matter of fact, hold off. We're not going to go there yet. Okay. Going to go back to the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, verses 2 and 3. So before we move to Matthew, let's go to Leviticus. There's actually a few scriptures I'm going to pull out there. Go on.
Leviticus chapter 20, verses 2 and 3. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death.
He shall surely be put to death if he give his seed unto Molech. Okay? Meaning, go and sacrifice to another god and pass their infant or toddler-sized children through the fire as a sacrifice to this false deity. If you find any that are doing that, whether it be of the children of Israel or any of the strangers, they're bringing their worship of Molech and Dagon and all of these false god worship into the land, trying to pollute the land, you're going to put them to death too. Go on and read.
The people of the land shall stone him with stones. Verse 3. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name.
Now, what I want to delve a little deeper into, the point of this topic being, is the death penalty still valid, is what is said here in verse 3. Now, we understand the Most High gave us the law. He gave us priests. We read there in Deuteronomy that he wants the men, the women, the children, the children's children, the generation that is yet to come who don't know nothing. I want them to be taught. I want them to be instructed. I want them to be, drilled, if you will, on these commandments, that they may keep them, that the fear of Yahweh may rest in their heart, and they forsake me not. Okay? And if you go past, how can I say this? You go past that line and you commit a sin that is damnable unto death, then you shall surely be put to death, to clear wickedness out of the land and to place fear in their hearts. Now, the further consequence in verse 3 is that when that man is stoned to death, right, that offender, especially of the children of Israel, that offender, I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people. That man was put to death. His family is now separate, if you will, estranged from the Most High and from the children of Israel. Okay? I have set my face against that man to cut him off from among his people. He is no longer a part of the children of Israel. He's dead, so he's literally not a part. But now his family has to bear that. Okay? And think about that when we think about the divide that came between the nation of Israel after Solomon, where the kingdom was rent in two, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Okay? And the scripture says that cursed be all they that keep not the words of this law. So they were cursed. Okay? And when you commit iniquity, damnable unto death, you shall, if you're not stoned to death, then you are cut off from among your people. They were separate, removed. They had been just removed out of the presence of the Most High because of their iniquity, because of their sinfulness. Okay? Was that all of verse 3?
Mm-hmm.
From there, we'll go to Psalms chapter 78, verses 31 and 32. Psalms chapter 78, verses 31 and 32. Now you see, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, all these scriptures we're pulling out, right? When you commit a sin that's worthy of death, you were put to death. You were cut off from your people. The reason why, as we read in Deuteronomy, was, one, to remove the wickedness out of the land, remove that wicked influence. Two, to cause fear to come into their heart. Okay? And that's pretty much it. But go on and read Psalms 78, verses 31 and 32. I thought there might be a third reason.
Okay.
Go on.
The wrath of Yahweh came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
For all this they sinned still, and believed not for his wondrous works.
So this is David, or Asaph here, talking about our great ancestors in the wilderness, and how our ancestors provoked the Heavenly Father to anger time and time again. Okay? They continue to go off. They continue to rebel. They continue to challenge Moses and his authority. They continue to murmur and complain against the commandments given from the mouth of the Most High to Moses, to Aaron. Okay? They were a stiff-necked, rebellious people. And countless times, Moses had to intervene to keep the Most High from utterly annihilating our ancestors and wiping us off the face of the earth in order to preserve his legacy and to preserve the promise that he made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so the writer here is saying, verse 31. Now remember the death penalty. Okay, think about the death penalty. What it was supposed to do. It was supposed to wipe wickedness out and cause fear to fall into the hearts of those who survive, that they may beware of that danger and keep his commandments. That's what the death penalty is supposed to do when you violate the Most High's laws. That's what it's supposed to do. If you stand around and this dude is committed sin and the elder takes him and stone him to death or kill him, you standing there like, hey, I don't want that to happen to me. You're going to get it together because you don't want that to happen to you. You're going to get it together. But here, our ancestors were going on. Verse 31, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them. Fattest of them meaning those who were gluttonous, not just on a physical level, but on a spiritual level. They were gluttonous for the stuff that Egypt provided. They wanted to leave and go back into Egypt countless times. They longed and lusted after the dainty meats of Egypt. I'm sick of this bread. I'm sick of this manna. I'm sick of this quail. We out here in the desert. I feel like Moses don't know what he's talking about. Yo, let's make us captains and go back into Egypt, yo. I'm sick of being out here in the desert, just arid air and sand and dirt. Let's go back into Egypt. Okay, so verse 31, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them and smote down the chosen men of Israel. That's the death penalty. Okay, so he performed the death penalty. May not necessarily been the stoning of stones, but he sent fire. The earth opened up. The Most High implemented his methods of destruction on the fattest of them, the chosen men of Israel. He performed the death penalty on them. So what was supposed to happen? There should be no more evil, and the men should fear so that evil would not be committed. But what happened? Verse 32. For all of this, they sinned still. Hold up. So we recognize that the death penalty is supposed to cause us to get it right. He killed a whole lot of people, and we were still sinning. Still sinning. Does that mean that the Most High in his law is corrupt? No. That just means we corrupt. Mm-hmm. It was implemented as how I want to say this. I wanted to word it one way, but it's supposed to be like not the last straw, but you know, if somebody is dying, that's like, yo, he took it to the max. Okay, the Most High took it to the max, man. He not playing around. Okay, not just whipped with scourges or nothing like that. Not just pay a penalty. Okay, not just, you stay outside the camp and put him in the water, nothing like that. Literally, he had to be put to death. He wasn't playing. He took it to the max. He took it to the hilt. He was prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, if you will. It's supposed to get the people to act right, but they sinned still. Verse 32. For all this they sinned still and believe not for his wondrous works. So you see, even the death penalty in some regard was still insufficient. It was not sufficient to righteously bring about judgment. It could not properly bring about judgment in killing people. Okay? But the question is the death penalty still valid? So you see, it wasn't perfect, but is it still valid today? Okay? Where I want to go. might have you. We'll go to Matthew now.
Okay.
Matthew chapter 5, verse 38 and 39.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth.
Mm-hmm.
But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also.
Okay, so these are the words of Yahawashi. Now, in the beginning of the lesson, I said that the death penalty, there were usually two classes of crimes that led to the death penalty. Crime against violating the law of the Most High, like the false prophet, or, you know, a man laying with a daughter and a mother, you know, those type of things. You got to be put to death. You violated the law of the Most High. Working on the Sabbath, picking up sticks, rather, stuff like that. And then you had the civic law, when you violated your brother, okay, and the only recompense was for that man to be put to death, okay? So the words of Yahawashi here, okay, because many Christians will say, you know, we just forgive everything. Because what we really want to look at is the death penalty still valid? Is it still valid? So I want to know what Yahawashi thinks about it, okay? Even now, when unfortunately you're hearing the talks about, you know, what went down in Memphis a few days ago between some brothers of Fopi camp and, you know, Sakari camp, and somebody getting jumped or not jumped and all this other stuff. And, you know, the side, you know, the camp with Fopi, they're upset. They're angered by it. And they want retribution. From what I hear, as long as they can get a sincere apology from the Sakari camp, from those involved, then we can let bygones be bygones. But if they're not wanting to apologize, but rather boast, then they feel like they got to do what they got to do. Okay? I don't want to see it come, you know, to an escalation of this situation where, you know, other people are fighting, or God forbid someone's getting shot and dying from it. But, you know, I'm not condoning that. I don't want to see that. But let us also realize it happened. There's a precedence for it. There's a precedence for it. So now that we're in the new covenant with Yahawashi, we have grace and all these different things. I want to understand, is the death penalty still valid? You know, if a man violates the law of the Most High, we have grace in Yahawashi, which we'll get into. But if you violate a man, okay, how are you supposed to handle that? Okay? It may be easier if y'all both in the truth. But what if one brother is not in the truth? How do you handle it? How do you deal with it? Okay? So, Matthew 5, 38 and 39. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. So Yahawashi here is focusing on when there's a violation between brother and brother with the civic law, okay? And he's quoting here what is said in Exodus or Deuteronomy, because it says it a couple times in the Old Testament. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But it doesn't say anything about life for a life. Okay? But he's saying, if a brother ain't kill you, all right, because it doesn't say life for a life here in Matthew. Yahawashi is saying, if you know, they haven't killed your sibling or killed your family or killed, you know, your loved one, but simply did something to violate you, why can't you just let it go? Forgive it. Resist not evil. Okay? This is among your brother. This is the attitude we ought to have. Oftentimes, we go off emotion and instinct. You did something to me, that street mentality come back, and I'm about to come at you full-fledged. I don't want to hear no I'm sorry. I don't want to hear none of that. But Yahawashi is trying to teach us we need to put aside that street mentality and truly try to walk in righteousness towards our brother. Okay? So from there, I'll have you grab Deuteronomy chapter 19, verses 19 through 21.
Through 21. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 19 through 21.
So like it, because this is where Yahawashi references the eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So go on.
Okay. Then shall you do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother.
Now this is the judgment for a false witness. Okay, when he went to court, took a man to before the elders and found out this man was lying, okay, and bore false witness. Okay, now this man will be judged for the lies that he told, trying to get this man in trouble, trying to get this man persecuted. Okay, go on.
So shalt thou put the evil away from among you, and those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. And thine eye shall not pity, but life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So Tanika need her eye taken out, don't she?
That's enough.
Okay.
But what you're seeing here, is, I'm gonna use that topic. Now, this is the law, right? Here in Deuteronomy. This is what is permitted for the party that was violated to exact on the one who did the violation, performed the violation, who violated the person, okay? This is what he's permitted to do, okay? But it says, thine eye shall not pity. Thine eye shall not pity. So, you may think in your mind, I don't want to do that. Just let it go. It's fine. It's cool. The law is saying, no, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. You're going to take his eye for your eye. You're going to take a tooth for your tooth. You're going to take a life for his life. This is what you're going to do. Why? Verse 20. And those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. You're going to do this so that everyone else may recognize this junk is not acceptable.
And don't feel sorry.
Don't feel sorry about it. Mm-hmm. But Yahawashi in Matthew, again, remember, we go a little higher in this chapter, verse 17 and 18. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. This is in the same chapter where he talks about the eye for eye, quoting Deuteronomy here. So Yahawashi is not going to contradict the law of Moses, okay? So here, if a man does this to you, this is what you're going to do, so that the fear may be upon the people. But what happened? We read in Psalm 78 how the Most High, smote the fattest of the men of Israel, the choice men of Israel. And guess what? Kept on sinning. They kept on sinning and did not turn from their iniquity. Okay? So to that point, yeah, she may have did what she did. But if you would have took her eye, there's no guarantee that she would turn from her wickedness. Right. She would keep on doing what she's doing. Okay? So, going back to Matthew chapter 5, verse, was it 38 and 39? I'm sorry. 38 and 39. For ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Okay? walking in righteousness and forgiveness towards your brother. That when you've violated, then of course you have to face the punishment. But if you've been violated, that you could have forgiveness of sin of your brother who violated you, and let bygones be bygones, if you will. Okay. Let's see here. Can you go to John chapter 8, verses 4 through 11?
St. John?
Yes. After that, we'll do one more.
St. John 8, 4 through 11.
Mm-hmm. So again, Yahawashi said in Matthew chapter 5, think not that I came to do away with the law and the prophets. I didn't come to do away. You got to keep all the commandments. You heard what Deuteronomy said. Life for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, thou shalt not pity. But then Yahawashi later on says, I know you've heard this, but if something happens, resist not evil. Let it go. Let it go. So is that just saying, what, we don't deal with somebody who do something wrong, so we just let it go all the time? That's what, hold on. Yahawashi pretty much in the spirit is like, hold on. All right, he's going to give a better clarification for what should be done. So John chapter 8, verses 4 through 11.
They say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery, in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? Salakia.
So again, they were trying to tempt him, and they brought this woman before Yahawashi and said, look, she was caught committing adultery. She was in the very act, right? And the laws of Moses says you got to stone her to death. What they failed to do is bring the man, because the scripture says that you stone the man and the woman to death. Mm-hmm. So you can see they probably had it in for this woman to begin with. It probably was set up, maybe. Okay. But Yahawashi didn't respond in the way they thought he would respond and say, nah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I'm the Christ. I'm Yahawashi. I came to forgive. It's all good. He didn't say that. Read on.
Verse 6. This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yahawashi stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not.
Okay, so he just acted like he didn't hear him. He just ignored them. He didn't say, she doesn't need to face punishment for her adultery. According to the law of Moses, she is to be put to death. She is to be put to death. Okay? But let's put this little nugget in our ear too. So the law of Moses says if one, commits adultery, they are to be put to death, the man and the woman. Let's think about David and the sin that he committed, laying with Bathsheba and also killing her husband. Was this the knowledge of this sin hid from men? No, the prophet Nathan was aware of what he did. Right? Shouldn't David have been and Bathsheba put to death? Right? Shouldn't that have happened? Okay, so you see that forgiveness was implemented then, and you're going to see it implemented now. Go on.
Verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her.
So he didn't say not to stone her. He said, go ahead, stone her. I'm not going to stand in the way of Moses. If that's what the law say, go ahead and stone her. But the caveat is, if any of you are without sin, you can stone her first. Go ahead. Pick up a stone. Go ahead. Stone her. Her sin is worthy of death according to the law of Moses. And in chapter 5 of Matthew, he said, think not that I come to do away with the law. So go ahead, kill her if you're innocent. The word says that Yahawashi could perceive men's thoughts. Mm-hmm. Okay? He could tell, was it Daniel? forget who it was, but who was sitting under the tree. He said, I knew everything you was doing. I knew you was sitting under the tree earlier. Okay? So he knows all these things. So he knew their conduct. He knew what wickedness they had done in their lives. And he knew that Yah have only brought this woman here to try to tempt me, to try to bring a false accusation against me, to get me thrown in prison. But it ain't going to work. Keep reading.
Verse 8, and again he stooped down and wrote on the ground, and they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahawashi was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Yahawashi had lifted up himself, and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Yahweh, or master, no man, master. And Yahawashi said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more.
So remember, the death penalty when you commit a damnable sin was to remove evil out of the way and to cause the fear of men, or cause the fear of Yahweh to rest upon man, because that person was put to death. Okay? And here in this passage, you see Yahawashi didn't condemn the act of stoning her to death. Okay, if she's worthy to be put to death, put her to death if you're innocent. If you're innocent. Because you can't be an evil judge trying to condemn someone. You're a hypocrite. And so they had enough of a conscience to realize, man, I'll be hypocritical if I put this woman to death when I done did all types of wicked stuff. You wanted to say something? Very quick.
Really quick. Also, the fact that in the first books that you read, I think in Judges or Deuteronomy, it said they were all as one man. This awakening is so ununified, that, like you said, there are no elders, council, no one group that is all, together on one accord where we can all go to them and talk to them about our grievances against one another, that will judge it righteously. Everybody is so, separated into their own camps and groups and everything, and then the fact that we're in our captivity, that if we do go and try to, tooth for a tooth, death for death, or life for a life, or whatever, people going to prison.
Yeah.
Nobody want to have that go to prison behind this. So like you're saying and teaching in this Bible study,
And you have to think, to your point, Yahawashi and the children of Israel at that time were under the thumb of the Roman Empire. So they had an Edomite ruling over them. You know what I'm saying? They had Pontius Pilate. They had these Romans ruling over them. So they couldn't, more than we can now, they couldn't fully exact the ways of their forefathers in the land because of the influence from the Roman Empire. Okay? So you see that Yahawashi is not contradicting himself, but he's having balance. He said, I know you've heard eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Why can't you let yourself be defrauded, if you will? And then here with the adulterous woman, yeah, she's worthy of death. If you're innocent, go ahead and stone her. When they all left because they were they were convicted by their evil imagination, he said, where are your accusers? They've all gone. Okay, well, I condemn you not. Go and sin no more. Go and sin no more. So you're seeing grace being applied. Okay, mercy being applied. Things that he was teaching throughout his ministry. The grace and mercy that we should have towards one another. Okay? Well, that scripture will be done for tonight. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 7 and 8.
11, what? 7 and 8?
Yeah. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 7 and 8.
Now therefore there is utterly a fault among you, because you go to law one with another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded?
Shalakia. So these are the same things here, Apostle Paul reiterating that Yahawashi tried to teach. You know, if you have those who violate the law of the Most High and are put to death, and then those who violate their brother, you know, violating the civic law and being put to death. Now, the violation of the Most High, we read in Psalms that he punished his people and they still sinned. He put many to death, they still sinned. So if your brother has violated you, yeah, you could eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But to show forth the righteousness of the Most High, why can't you allow yourself to be defrauded? But in this truth, going to the law and trying to go upside your brother's head to get, you know, every penny out of him. Read that scripture one more time.
Now therefore there is utterly a fault among you.
There is a fault. There's a problem between y'all. We're supposed to be in Yahawashi. We're supposed to be in the truth. We're supposed to be walking in love and sincerity, compassion towards your brother. There is a fault among you. Read on.
Because you go to law one with another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded?
Why do ye not rather take wrong? Allow yourselves to be defrauded. Why don't you just let bygones be bygones? Take the L, so to speak. Why? Why are you escalating these matters? Why are you going before the heathen, yelling and shouting at the top of your lungs, threatening one another, seeking to have retribution, wanting to retaliate against your brother? Why can't you judge amongst yourselves? Okay? Why can't you do this? When we had the nation of Israel as one, we were under the law, we were under Moses, we were under the judges, we were under the kings. But something happened. We became separate and cut off. Yahawashi is trying to join us back together. And in that, he's provided grace and mercy. Okay? The death penalty, as we read, my face shall be against that man, he shall be cut off. Okay? Let's not perpetuate the same way that has cut us off as a people and has kept us estranged, not only from one another, but from the righteousness of God. So when certain situations come up, why can't you judge among yourselves? Allow yourselves to be defrauded. Now, in the situation between Sakari and Fopi, I'm not saying, you know, you just let a dude off the hook if you feel that he's, gone past that point. But there should be level-headedness among our people to where we can forgive, that we can allow righteousness to be in our heart, allow ourselves to be defrauded. Okay? Now, it's about getting to the bottom of it. Okay, there's some footage about, there's several videos with footage of what took place, what transpired on that night. Stories that stuff like this has happened in the past, and nobody wants to deal with that. Meaning that nobody wants to have that happen to their family, to their members, to their brothers. Okay? But in some cases, why can't you judge amongst yourself? Why can't you allow yourselves to be defrauded? Okay?
Verse 8.
Yes.
Nay, you do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren.
So, Apostle Paul is not just looking at the one who was violated and defrauded, but the one who did the defrauding. Okay? You're in the wrong because you're taking this way too far. But you're in the wrong because you shouldn't have did that to begin with. Okay? These are the things Yahawashi was teaching us, that we might be unified as one again. We were separated. We were divided. The death penalty cut us off from the face of God. Yahawashi, and the abundance of mercy and grace, is trying to bring us back together. Okay? Because the death penalty could not do it. We sinned still. We sinned still. So he's trying to allow or cause us to come together, be unified as one in him. But sometimes even Apostle Paul is having to address it. We still can't find kindness and compassion and long suffering towards one another to even allow ourselves to be defrauded. Bro, you got it. I'll take the L. It's your world. Go on. It's all good. Let bygones be bygones. We cannot even come to a place where we can allow that to happen. We want to go blow for blow. You want to go grab your piece and go, where that nigga? I'm going to go find him. To try to, on your own, exact judgment and retribution for whatever wrong was done to you or your boys or your crew, your camp. Okay? So we're going to finish this up tomorrow, Most High willing. Shalom.